Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve podcast takes a close-up look at controversial subject matter and hot-button topics, adding humor, cynicism, and a dose of reality to the stuff we're not supposed to talk about anymore. Politics, religion, sex, gender identity, violence, corruption. Nothing is left unturned in this lighthearted approach to information dissemination. The world is experiencing a pandemic of cowardice. 80% of people do not believe the craziness they've been coerced to agree with. Grab a friend, grab a beverage, and dive in with us as we take on the narrative and blast social stigmas with truth. Here are your hosts, Patriots Ray Amanat and Steve Reed.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, America. Welcome to Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. On all of your blog posts or social media posts, I'm Ray Amanat, based in Port Richey, Florida, and my co-host, Mr. Steve Reed, somewhere in an undisclosed location in northern Texas. Welcome, Steve.
Buenos dias, senor.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of those illegals coming in. You're going to have to brush up on your Spanish.
Si, Ako, Marito. How's Ray today?
I'm doing good. Just, hey, Christmas is just around the corner and New Year's is right behind that. So it's coming up on us fast. And it's a whirlwind of news. With the Trumps and the Bidens, it's like the Hatfields and the McCoys, and we've got a guest that's going to shed her version of light on everything politics today. So it is our pleasure to introduce Miss Susan Harp, who is
Suzanne.
Suzanne. I asked you that earlier also.
Suzanne Harp.
You got to get it right.
Right.
She's looking at selling her soul and running for Congress for Congressional District 3 in this great state of Texas. Welcome to Taboo Talk, Suzanne.
Thank you. And that's the best state in the union. I always tell everybody, don't forget we fought a war over this state, right?
And we did.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I greatly appreciate it. This is going to be a lot of fun, I can already tell.
So,
before we go any further, Suzanne, I hope you don't mind, Ray, sorry for interrupting. No, I'm not. But this is an opinion-based program.
Uh-huh.
And we have done our fact checks. And we did not call Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or anybody else to have them assemble a team of fact checkers, which they are really opinion checkers. We have done our fact checking, and again, this is an opinion-based program, but we really focus on fact. So doesn't necessarily concur with our sponsors, our guests, anybody, the other supporters, etc. So disclaimer now out of the way. So, right.
And if people don't like what we have to say, change the channel. You don't have to get all butthurt. But change the channel.
Start your own podcast and express your own opinions, okay?
That's right.
So, anyway, and if somebody wants to cancel us, go ahead and cancel. I don't really care. So
Suzanne, this is the big mystery. Tell us about yourself and why you're running for Congress.
Oh, thank you for that. A little bit about me. So I'm at my heart, I'm a mom of four. Bill and I've been married for 28 years. And for most of that time when we were married, we were homeschooling parents. And so we have four kids. Blake's our oldest, Haley, Jonathan, and Thomas, and they're all doing quite well. We're empty nesters now. But long story short, fast forward to the 2020 election, and my son was the chief of staff for Madison Cawthorn, and that January 6th happened, and Madison got to speak right before the president. So Blake, Madison's in a wheelchair, and Blake was also not only his chief of staff, but one of his handlers. And so he helped Madison on and off the stage before the president spoke. Then goes back to the Cannon building and, goes about his day. And then he's texting us in the group text saying they're breaching the Capitol. And of course, at that point, Mom says, "Could you just stay in your office?" And he says, he's laughing, going, "I think they're pretty nice." And I said, "Well, I see some familiar faces from the Summer of Love." And so a little bit concerned, but didn't think anything else of that. And then a few weeks later, Marjorie Taylor Greene posted some interesting comments that Nancy Pelosi was trying to garnish the text messages, emails, and correspondence from her staffers. So at that point, I call Blake on the phone, and he says to me, "Mom, whatever we can talk about in person, we need to. Let's not talk about this ever again online or where it can be recorded." So I knew that we needed to be careful at that point, and we decided to connect with our congressman. He would not help us. As a matter of fact, he voted for the January 6th commission. So Mama Bear kicked in, and I was concerned about my own child. And at that point, I said, well, if it can happen to me in Allen, Texas, where the DOJ or whoever political opponents can start to come after you, you better believe it can happen to anybody else. So at that point, we decided to run for Congress, and we did. There were 5 of us total in the race, and they told me I'd get 20. They said you'd get 2% of the vote. We got 20.8% of the vote. And we decided to press in and to do our level best to educate the constituents of Collin County and America at large what it looks like if we don't get the 3-letter agencies under control, especially the DOJ, IRS, you name it. And this can be pertaining to you guys as radio broadcasters, as vlogists, and as anybody running a podcast, whatever, anything that you say, if they're going to use it against you, being a political opponent. We've seen what's happened to Steve Bannon being deplatformed from all the social media channels simultaneously. These are the type of things that we ought to be holding our government in check and have a balance against that tyranny. So that was the original reason to run. It still is the reason to run. As you know, Biden has said he wants 87,000 new IRS agents who have and must be willing to administer lethal authority over American citizens. So as you can tell, I'm concerned. Just being a regular businesswoman, I work in an investment bank. We do really great work for our clients, and I think to myself, if these things can happen to a regular, ordinary citizen, it can happen to anybody else. I've also been paying attention to what is going on with our January 6th, what I call the political prisoners who are still being held today, 500 plus days past the time when they were first taken into custody, without any real, due diligence on our government's part as far as making sure that they're getting in equal protection under the law. So these are the kind of things I think are really super important. That's just a tip of the iceberg of basically why I'm running, but there's many, many other reasons. I'd like to talk about the economy today, the cultural war, you name it, a whole host of other things. But hopefully that gives you the reason why I got interested in running for politics, although I've been interested in politics my whole life. But the actual running of it is quite interesting. As you know, it's challenging, but it's not for the faint of heart by any means.
I'm glad I took my blood pressure medicine earlier. This is, a couple of weeks ago, we had a program that was scripted, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And it actually turned out to be a rant. And I'm fed up with all of the garbage that's going on in so many different areas in our Congress, in the Senate, in the presidency, et cetera. And you just mentioned something almost in passing about the January 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to due process?
That's exactly right. Well, and so we look like Venezuela and Argentina at this point. We look like Cuba at this point, or Russia, right? The Gestapo has come in and they put their metal boot on the throat of America. And what does it do to keep them in prison for this whole time? It's meant to be.
So, Suzanne, I don't mean to interrupt, but there's a real simple fix to this. Why in the heck has Mike Johnson not released all of those people?
Well, so
I don't get it.
So it's a very good question, because Congress is in charge of the jail there. We know that. We know that because Louis Gohmert outlined it for us very clearly as to what the authority is.
Right.
And you have to almost take pause. And I do believe in Mike Johnson. I think he can and has the potential of being a really great speaker. At the end of the day, if we forget American citizens who are imprisoned without due process, then that's the lowest bar imaginable to upholding the Constitution. I'm again, that I don't want to strike fear into the American people, but it absolutely should make you sit up and take pause. I don't know why he hasn't gone and released them, right? And so, as far as the authority to do so, or even consider sending some of them back to the states that are more favorable to treating prisoners in a more humane way. Like, I know that they have sent some back to Texas, right? But, and in general, and sending them back to some of the more liberal states may be dangerous for them. Those are real things that we have to consider. But, it's just something, until you get a Congress that's willing to hold the three-letter agencies accountable, then we're in this position. And we have our current congressman who has not been to visit the defendant. So at what point do we say, would you want me to forget you in prison? Would you? Because I promise you, I wouldn't. I don't even know these individuals, but I wouldn't. And it's very personal for me, because I could see how that could have and would have happened to my own child. And so I did meet a couple. I did meet a couple who were there, and they were on the grounds. They went there strictly to pray. It was a husband-wife team, and their heads were bowed in prayer. And out of her peripheral, she saw a January 6th, Capitol Police come after her husband and raise his arm, and she just did this to raise her hand to protect her husband, and they charged her. And she, of course, she had all the legal battles that went along with that, and it's absolutely unconscionable what we're allowing to go on. But I want everybody to understand the why behind it, because it's just as critical as why is Mike Johnson not moving. The critical thing here is, if the radical left, and I don't think all Democrats are bad, by the way, but the radical left, if they're allowed to do these Gestapo type scare tactics, it keeps even you and I sometimes take pause on what we say, how we say it, and where we say it.
Right.
And at that point, we're no longer free. We're no longer free, but slaves to the state.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons to run. And, I get quite often people will ask me, what are the solutions? And so the solution is for Congress to stand. I made a video on this. They can look at it on my Instagram page or my Facebook page at SuzanneForCongress.com or Real Suzanne Harp at Instagram. But I made a video on this because it outlines exactly what I would do. And I think that's really important, as we're faced today, when I go to my meet and greets, with a lot of exasperated people. What do we do? What do we do? Okay, well, I outlined very clearly what ought to be done. So in my humble opinion, I think the defendants ought to be immediately released with a full pardon. Their back pay ought to be given to them, and all legal fees, and a formal apology from the United States government. Nothing else is acceptable. Nothing else is acceptable. And then we have to put some stop measures in place. And let me speak to you just a minute as far as social media and you guys doing your work that you're doing here, because the arm of the government.
We're going to have to hold on that,
okay,
and let you collect your thoughts, and we'll come back after this break.
Thank you.
Sam, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. He's funny.
Yeah.
We'll let him be funny.
No, he's being little Hitler for us today, and I appreciate that. So Ray, I'm going to let you take a break also, but let your pseudo Ray talk to us for a second. So, but as always, Ray, how are you doing?
That's what I want. Latch on as soon as you can, make it hard. If I stand on one leg, can you yank me off balance? Yeah. If I stand feet wide, can you pull me off balance? So, what's the matter with you? How you doing? What was the first thing she did? She walked away. She took her eyes off of me. She looked away. I take her purse. I run. She goes to security. She goes to law enforcement. They're going to say, well, what did he look like? And you're going to be like, it happened so fast. I didn't see him coming. You didn't see him coming because I made you feel uncomfortable. And you took your eyes off me and walked away. The whole point is, and this does not mean I want you to go and flirt and talk to the person, or I don't want you to go, I see you. I just want you to, that's a cool shirt. I'd like to get that because my kids are in soccer. I'm letting you know I'm aware of you. I'm letting you know I can describe you.
How you doing?
So with the holidays coming up, as a reminder to everyone, not only are you going Christmas shopping for your family, but the criminals also are going Christmas shopping. They're just waiting for you to finish up your shopping so they can meet you in the parking lot and take what you got and share it with their family. So head on a swivel, people. If you're interested in personal safety seminars, give us a call. Go to our website at heroesinaction.us. You can contact me at ray@heroesinaction.now.org. If you would like us, we are a nonprofit, to make a donation to our charity to help keep our overhead costs down and continue offering programs for free to the public, use the QR code or just go to our website and make a one-time or continuing donation. That's tax deductible on your part, and it allows us to continue to keep providing our services for anyone that wants it. So heroesinaction.us. Go check us out.
So Ray, I've got a question for you. Do you actually do personal safety seminars for people that may be running for, I don't know, elected office?
Absolutely. If you're looking to add your security detail, I'll be happy to talk to you about that also. Armed
I
or
like
unarmed.
that. That's next on the list.
You gotta find people you can trust. That's the big thing.
Ray, when you started talking, you're talking about people shopping and the criminals are looking for the people shopping. I'm going to throw something out also that's a little side note for everybody. And it's not just men, but if you see a woman walking through a parking lot with kids in tow, sometimes they're distracted with their phone, fumbling for their keys, et cetera, keep your eyes on them. Because if there are criminals that are stalking that particular person, somebody else coming up to lend assistance or just be present could be the deterrent that is necessary. So be aware of your surroundings and just make yourself accessible for other people. And offer to escort somebody out to their vehicle. So just a little side note. And not just women, okay? Old crippled guys like me. I would take an escort. So, but hey, I'll leave it at that. So
Now you got to choose your words wisely on that one about you'll take an escort. So let's.
you know what I mean, Ray. Oh mercy! Yeah,
He's a funny one.
Gosh. All right, let's get back to Suzanne. Go back to your talking point that you're going to bring up.
Well, the next thing I'd like to bring up when we're talking about our liberties, and Marsha Blackburn has started to work on this, and I think is doing some good work. But when we're talking about actually maintaining our freedoms, and if it would base it off our freedom of speech and basic liberty, what I'd like to see Congress do and spearhead and actually make it a little more robust of a movement is to consider outlining what it would look like to either have a big tech Bill of Rights or a actually as a constitutional amendment. And here's the why. I don't want, we have to have the free, we have new platforms that the founding fathers could not have foreseen that we have. a new form and mode of communication that is going to take over. It is obviously as disruptive as the light bulb has been, as disruptive as the car, as anything else. But the ability to deplatform somebody, demonetize individuals, and whatnot ought not to ever happen again. So in an election, if you think 2020, whether you believe it was stolen at the ballot box or if it was stolen on Twitter, it's really irrespective. And here's the why. If we can't hear our president speak anymore because you don't like what he's saying, then it disenfranchises at least half of America. And it shouldn't, I don't care if it was, like 3 people, it shouldn't happen. We need to be able to hear all sides, and we are smart enough and we are capable enough of deciphering the information for ourselves. We didn't get to know about the Hunter laptop, and it's overwhelming. The American people said that would have made a difference. We didn't get to hear that in 5 states there were thousands of affidavits that were filed from election workers, election walkers, administration, judges for elections, thousands of affidavits saying that there was problems in their particular site where their elections were going on. So all of that media was suppressed. Their voices were suppressed. And so as I believe the First Amendment should be enough, but obviously it's not, because we've got this loophole with, do we view media or social media specifically as a town square? Or is it a newspaper? How do we view social media?
Exactly.
So in order to clear up, I believe, all the confusion or the convenience of confusion, right? I think we ought to have a big tech bill of rights and a data bill of rights. Let me explain to you about the data bill of rights I'd like to see. Yahoo, all the 3-letter, ABC, all of them, they are garnishing your data every second you're on a device. And then we have all the crazy things that listen to your conversations at home. All of that is data gathering, and they profit off of you and your data, and you don't make any money off of that, which is, I think, shameful. If they're going to sell your data and profit off your data, you ought to get a kickback on that. That ought to be a part of the way we look at the future of the workforce. Right, we have all of these young 20-somethings that are influencers, and a lot of people like to say that generation's lazy. They're not. They just have more options, right? They can be copywriters, they can be content creators, all the things. Well, part of that is our data. Part of that equation is making sure that the multi-billion-dollar organizations are not completely viewing you and I as just a cash cow. So those are the 2 things I'd like to see also happen. I think it would support free speech. I think it would support also our ability for a due process, right? Give us another avenue to have a judiciary mechanism so that we have more options at our hand to keep us more free. So hopefully that makes sense.
Suzanne, I love your idea. I think it is a great idea. I think we need to hold the social media companies accountable, and they need to stop, scamming us, stealing our information, our data, and then selling it to whomever. But you got to remember, though, decades ago, there were companies that, and I'm not going to name any specific company like Under Armour or Reebok or Nike or whatever, so it doesn't make any difference. But how many people do you see walking around with a swoosh on their shirt? But how many times does Nike send them a check to advertise for them?
Yeah,
so we've been brainwashed to think that it's acceptable to just steal other people, and so what you're saying is we can put an end to big tech stealing our information and then selling it to other people without us proving that.
That's right. So let me flip this around for me from a business strategic mind, though. So Nike is allowing, if you think about it like this, allowing us to use their data, their swoosh, and now we are socially acceptable. We are super cool because we've got the Nike thing, and we're using that data to present it. So I'm saying, why aren't we the Nikes? If you're using my data to go out and to say, a middle-aged mom of 4, and she loves X, Y, and Z clothes, and she shops and she eats here and all that, and they're gathering all this data on me, data, right? And they use that data. Well, I think we know that if they're able to track that, we're able to do the reverse and track it to be monetized.
So it's funny that they have all this data, yet our economy sucks. What are they doing with the
so it
data?
only sucks for the lower
The
middle
people.
class, the lower middle class, and the poor. I want everybody to understand that under Bidenomics, okay, they want a larger divide. They want to, and the divide is so I'm in mergers and acquisitions, right? The cost of capital is higher. Yes, it is. But there are a lot of individuals in private equity and whatnot are still looking for great deals. We're still closing deals every day. One deal every calendar day. We're closing a deal. So not every work day, every calendar day. I'm sorry, excuse me, every other calendar day. My apologies. There is so much business to be had, and money. I want y'all to think about money in a change your money mindset. Money is not scarce. Money is energy. Money is the way you give and take of a good or service, right? And so when they say to us that we are going to stop petroleum or stop it for U.S. consumption, I want you to understand that our petroleum has not gone down for production as they want you to know it has. It's just gone down as far as what they sell the United States, what they sell American citizens. But on the global stage, we are still selling as much, if not more. So what does that mean? That they're creating a scarcity mindset in the United States. Does that make sense? So the economy is, I believe, manufactured so we feel like there's scarcity right now, and there's real scarcity when I go to buy my organic eggs, and they're $12 almost for 18. Okay, so but that's on purpose. When you dry up the supply chain, especially through energy, right, and you stop it here, then they have created a manufactured poor economy on purpose to pinch us on purpose. So I just want to really understand that this is manufactured. We could undo it in a matter of hours and days. I believe you turn back on the spirit of American ingenuity, we're back to business.
Open up the pipeline and get rid of the regulations and allow American energy companies to do what they are good at, being innovative. And there's a little side note though. I had an appointment early this morning. I was driving by one of the local gas stations here, and I noticed that the price of gasoline is going down. And it's been trending down for a couple of months now. And I'm thinking,
because it's an election
that's
year.
Right. You guessed it. Primary season is coming up. Primary season is coming up.
No, that is so cynical. You're telling us that the gasoline companies and Congresses are in collusion to try and get somebody in particular in office?
Yes, I am.
I am. Here's the good news, though. I want to underscore, Steve, if you don't mind. Sorry for interrupting you. What I want to underscore is this, and because I really want to give the American people hope. Yeah. There's a way out of this. And the key is what I've been telling everybody from the very beginning. We can't, in Texas, we're really bad about it. In Texas, we just keep hiring the incumbent. And we say, oh, but he hasn't done anything wrong. Okay, well, voting the right way, supposedly, quote unquote, is not good enough anymore. What we need right now are people who are willing to come up with solutions, see the solutions all the way through to their natural end, and be about actually educating the American people on how they can participate in the process. So let me give you a concrete answer on this, okay? So we were having a battle over the speakership, right? And we had the lovely Kay Granger decide she was not going to vote for Jim Jordan because Kay Granger sits on the Appropriations Committee and she holds the keys to the purse in a very powerful seat. And Jim Jordan has called those people to task over and over and over again. Who are those people? He's called the people, the special interests, to task. So he's called all the people that donate, those who are in K Street, to donate to these very powerful seats. And he wants accountability. And so she doesn't like that very much. And I don't want to poke at Kay. She's done a lot of great things for Texas. But at the end of the day, our congressman couldn't even find the guts to walk into her office and have a conversation, a part of the Texas delegation, face to face, to say, you need to vote for Jim Jordan, and here's why. It's in the best interest of the country. So she's not seeking re-election, as you know. And I hope it's because there were hundreds and hundreds of people that called her office and said, we want you to vote for Jim Jordan. She would not listen to her constituents. So we need to be about instilling hope in the American people. So the way you get change, you really have to be about slow to hire and quick to fire. Quit hiring the same politicians, and we are real bad as well. As like, well, they served in school boards, so they must be ready for city council. They served in city council, so they must be ready to be a mayor. They served as mayor or county commissioner, therefore they're ready for Congress. And that couldn't be further from the truth. If somebody hasn't created business or been in business or understand how to find strategic ways to find opportunity, they have no business serving in Congress. I'll tell you that. So I listened to Mike Pompeo at First Liberty's fundraising dinner a few months back. And Mike Pompeo said his favorite people in Congress, one last point, his favorite people in Congress were those who served in business. Because it wasn't, I can't do this, but no, I'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the solution.
Ingenuity. And with that, we need to take another break.
And when we come back, I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the seats and how people get those congressional seats that we talked about.
I would love to do that for you.
Kind of a scary. Yeah. All right. Hang on, folks.
Life isn't always sunshine and roses. Sometimes it's full of roadblocks. The kind that aren't as easy to fix as filling a hole or repairing a car. Personal roadblocks are another thing altogether. Why do I feel stuck? The same things anger me every time. Why am I doing this anyway? Fixing it yourself can be frustrating and confusing. And if more than one person is involved, DIY might mean destroy it yourself. Maybe it's time for another solution. Steve Reed shines a light on your roadblocks and helps you find the best way forward for you. Stephen Reed Ministries, bringing light and hope for a victorious life. To overcome your roadblocks, schedule an appointment with Steve Reed today.
And I am excited. Not only do I work with individuals on life issues, I've done a lot of emotional trauma coaching over the years, but I also help people with goal setting and planning for the future, those kinds of things. And here we are just a couple of weeks away from the new year, 2024. And I re-released my workbook. It's called Strategies for Success. It's 47 pages of raw content. And it's all about getting your mindset in the right place, having your dreams lined out, your goals. What is your purpose? What is your mission? What is your vision? Do you know what your why is? What are your strengths? What are your obstacles? All of those kinds of things that we rarely take the time to really evaluate all of those different particular things. And so I'm making this available. You can scan the QR code that'll take you to my website. It's only $27. It is a fillable PDF. And with that fillable PDF, you can work on it and put it on the shelf, so to speak, save it to your hard drive, and then come back and work on it again, and then use it, reevaluate every 3 months. And that's one of the things that people don't do. And so I liken this back to 2020 when the middle of March hit and COVID hit and nobody was prepared. Everybody had to pivot. Well, consider that a regular occurrence that we have to pivot, meaning we have to be on top of our game all the time. So this workbook will help you evaluate where you are to make sure that you are on track. It's not a calendar, it's a strategic planning program. and go to my website, and you can see it from there. So anyway, let's see. Oh, yes, Ray. Thank you so much.
And where is your website, Mr. Steve?
It's coming. I'm trying to find it. There's my website. So it's called. I've got too much stuff that's going on right now. So I'm going to take this out of the screen. So all right. So Ray, you were asking Suzanne a question. So what was your question?
It was about how they acquire specific seats or committee seats.
Committee seats.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd love to be part of the good work that Matt Gaetz has done to educate the American population on how Congress achieves certain committee seats. We talk about all the time about how are we going to fix America? The system is broken. And it's our constitutional republic's not broken. What the founding fathers designed is not broken at all. We just don't follow it anymore. And we have allowed outside interests to creep in. Those outside interests could be a lobbying arm from oil and gas. It could be from pharmaceuticals. It could be from big tech. It could be from anything that contributes to our military. It could be a whole host of things that by themselves are not bad. But here's the deal. So every Congress person is elected to represent their district, right? So we have 435. And when they go to Congress, they're hoping to get a committee that will either suit their bent and their background, right? Or that can help their district. So in these committees are given, of course, by the Speaker of the House and his so to speak, his board that helps to figure out who's going to go where. Right. Well, Matt Gaetz outlined beautifully in a documentary on how each of these committee seats are given, and then how the chairship is awarded as well. So I would encourage everybody to go back and watch it because we don't have enough time to go through it now, but I'm going to give you the 30,000 foot view. So let's say you want to be on appropriations or ways and means, or you want to be in any committee. In order to achieve that committeeship, that seat, you have to pay money to get that. And it's obviously to the party, right? So you're paying to be a part of that. Well, let's say it costs you $200,000 or $300,000, which I think is pretty typical. How are you going to get that money? You can't go back to your district and raise the money in a normal meet and greet atmosphere or a town hall. That's just not going to happen. It's a lot of money to raise in one sitting. So what happens if you end up on appropriations or ways and means? You'll have somebody, a lobbyist from K Street, reach out to you and say, Congresswoman Harp, we'd love to help you pay that fee that you need to do to get on that committee, right? And so you're so thankful because you didn't know how you were going to come up with the $200,000 or $300,000 to get there, and you really want that seat for your district because it would be important to your district to have it. Well, now, who are your alliances? Who are your allegiances with? Well, obviously now, so you're really worried because now you've got the K Street individuals who you are now beholden to. And you've got to straddle the fence with your constituents. And so my district particularly is very red. We have an R+16 or an R+20 if you count Hunt County in there. My constituents understand business. They understand family. They understand the Constitution. They're very, very smart, very educated, and they love our country. And so if I'm there and going to go to Congress and my division is split between these two competing factions, what am I to do? And that's why I think that America beats their head against the wall going, why do you change, as Ray said earlier? Why do you change when you go to Congress? Well, you're changing because your alliances and your allegiances aren't true anymore. And that's when you say, you guys, you're going over to the dark side, or the dark side enters your soul. Do you have a strong soul? I mean, you have to really ask yourself, who do you serve at the end of the day? Do you serve the special interest on K Street who helped you get that committee? Or do you serve your constituents the way founding fathers designed our constitutional republic to be? And until I believe once Americans are fully educated on this and we break that cabal, and it is a cabal, then you'll start to see some real change. But here, everybody needs to understand when there are a few good congressmen and a few good senators for sure, and when they tell you that it's a uniparty in Washington, that's what they mean. They mean that the system is designed in Washington for you to acquiesce, to tote the line of being an incumbent. And so that it's no more you're Republican and Democrat anymore. At that point, it's all incumbents have each other's back. Right?
So I've got to ask you a question, though. And actually, it's more clarification.
Sure, please.
I believe that we have an above average audience, a very intelligent, and we're definitely leaning very strongly to the right. But I also believe there are probably some people that don't understand the terminology that we've all used, and that is K Street.
That's fair. That's fair. Yes.
What do you mean by K Street?
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you for that, because I really think it's important that once the American people actually understand. So K Street is obviously it's a geographic place. It's very close to Congress. Yeah. Matter of fact, it's down the street from the Capitol Club, where all the congressmen go and they have lunch and they have their meetings that have to be held off-site according to law. And so K Street is where all of the lobbyists will office. So literally that's where the office, their office is on K Street, and that's why it's nicknamed K Street, right? Or what they say, the people on K Street. But again, what's the solution? Once we understand how it really operates and we take back the curtain, we're willing to talk about it. And the American people, the only answer is, and it has never changed since Benjamin Franklin said it, if you're going to have a constitutional republic, the electorate has to be both moral and educated. So, and then I'm going to add a third thing, which I think was inherently obvious at the time, is when you're moral and you're educated, what is the next step? That is to be involved and press in. And so I'd like to talk to your audience a little bit about how to be involved, how to be pressed in, what we've learned since the last election, give them some actual tactical things.
I gotta make one comment, because when you say educated and you look at the communists that are running our education system in Harvard University and some of these other colleges that are woke and not standing up for defending anti-Semitism and saying that's bad, and with them being interviewed by people of Congress, and they just didn't have the right words to say. They should be fired. So yeah, we have people that are educated that are going to be our future leaders in our government, but they're educated not on the freedoms of our country. They're educated on other aspects of other world, whether it's Europe or Russia or China or anything like that. What do you say about that?
The education system has produced good little communists, and we ought to call it what it is. And once we tell them, and this is my fervent belief, our future leaders ought to come from Hillsdale, from Liberty University, from Patrick Henry College. We ought to be very careful where we're choosing our leaders from. But here's the deal. When you tell somebody who's come out of Harvard, as I had breakfast this morning with a recent Harvard grad, and you explain to them, do you understand our liberties that you're giving up? And being the Harvard grad that you are, you don't realize you've been raised to be a good little communist. Do you understand what it looks like to give up the freedom of speech? Do you understand what it means to give up the freedom of religion? And once you give up these fundamental, or what it means when the government can come in and seize your property, or quarter, remember, and they could even do this today, force you to house individuals into your home, right? So once you realize that you're about to give up liberty, and let's talk about what that looks like. And so the answer, right, to your question is you need people in Congress who are willing to sit on a microphone nonstop, as Reagan did for 12 years before he was elected, and speak about communism with a level of conviction, that have a background that speaks to a higher standard of holding themselves. Do they have a good marriage? Do they have a good family? Have they run business? These things that people can look up to and aspire to. You have to have true leadership that can articulate what it means to be free. right? And so that's the answer. And so everybody always wants to know, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about the border? What are we going to, okay. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say this, we can win on the border. We can win in Israel, God willing. We can win on the economy, but if we lose the cultural war, what Ray just said, and what Ray's really saying is we're in a cultural war. If we lose on the cultural war, we lose everything. Nothing else matters because you have good little communists that are going to come in and everything else goes to pot. Sure, I'll give 60% of what I earn. I'll give 60% of what I earn to the government. Why isn't it 100? Please take more. Give me a break, right? So that the answer is it's always goes back to fundamentals. We have to go back to being good people and good humans ourselves, to be good role models, to be willing to speak at what it means to be free, what it means to have liberty. You know, I know we're going to run out of time, but we really have to dig into the cultural war. I promise you, there's one thing. And I'm going to say one last thing, Ray. Give me a break. Just one last thing. You're killing me. One last thing. What I'm asked most of all, if I had a survey, they say, Suzanne, what is different between you and your opponent? Because you guys are both conservative. And I say, first of all, we're nothing alike because my strategy on how to get there is completely outlined. And I have a path to get us there, a real tactical thing that I know works. And number two, he never speaks to the cultural war.
Okay.
And if you don't have children, you don't have a cultural.
Yeah, we'll do that right after the break. I promise this will be a shorter break. There you go. We'll be right back.
Entertainment expands your horizons, takes you on fantastic adventures, challenges your skills. Independent media never looked so good. Welcome to a new sphere of influence. Our words mean business. Traditional families are honored, and the American flag still flies.
All right, Suzanne, take it away.
What I was stating was that the cultural war and where we are with that being the true leaders that the next generation needs. So my children, the oldest is 26, my youngest is 19. And the things that they tell me is, number one, we're tired of fighting wars abroad. We're tired of our buddies that were on the football team with us telling us now that they're girls when there's such confusion there. We're tired of the slippery slope of the morals not being true and fast to being back to where our true Judeo-Christian values are. So these are the young people. They're sick of not being able to afford a mortgage, right? And most of their friends after leaving college with all the debt are living with mom and dad. But the cultural war is such a fundamental attack on our young children. And I want to talk to you guys about some really hard things that happen, whether it be the transgender movement or whether it be sexualizing our children. I would bet money that you can remember the first time you were encountered with anything sexual, whether it be pornography, whether it be kissing a girl in the back of a car. It doesn't matter. You remember that first time, and here's the why. Because it rewires your brain. All studies show that it fundamentally rewires your brain. So we are expecting these children as young as 3 and 4 to take on a burden that you and I and no other generation has ever been forced to take before. So whenever you question their sexuality, are you influencing them and you're bringing them into a world that they're not capable of handling it? It puts a level of stress on them that is incomprehensible, and you're asking them to make adult decisions when they're not able to make them. So this cultural war, if we don't keep them as innocent as long as possible, we don't speak and go back to being what it means to be pure, we don't talk to them about how hookup culture is bad for them and how it hurts them. Now the young girls and the young boys are speaking to it. Use them as role models, those who have been burned by hookup culture. If we don't have a holistic plan on how to heal that culture, and at the same time, again, raise good little communists, America's done. America is finished, done. And the only way to get back to freedom after you've gone that, if it's even possible, is going to be a bloody war. And that, I mean, real guns, real stuff. And that's what history tells us, not my opinion. That's what history tells us. So we're at a pivotal time. And I believe the cultural war is the war of the next generation. And my son said it perfectly. And I'll tell you, you've got to listen to those who are going through it firsthand. He says it's the 5th generation warfare, Mom. It's the war for your mind. Yeah. It's the war for your mind.
But we're losing our mind to AI.
Well, and again, so we ought to talk about that as well. I have a very large tech background, I'll tell you, and a lot of those that are in Congress right now do not even understand when they're putting their bill for whether it be the electric bill or whatever they're talking online. You got the little pop-up window on the side. They don't understand that's a bot. They don't understand that's AI. It's garnishing their data. And so when you don't understand AI and what it's going to play in the future for us, you do not understand how to legislate. They'll either underdo it or overdo it.
Yeah.
But again, everybody needs to listen very carefully what Elon Musk says about AI. And then I would challenge you to even listen to the people in Davos, what they say about AI, because you always want to listen to those who are on the far, far left, what they plan on doing. You do. You want to educate yourself. You want to know what everybody's saying. And we need to put stop caps and stop measures in place that protect us, protect our children, most and foremost. Because I think, Ray, what your point is, at least I don't put words in your mouth, but if the children are interacting so much with social media and whatnot, you have no idea which one of those is a bot.
Right.
One individual can manufacture several bots, by the way. Did you know that? And so I happen to know this. It's the wave of cells in the future, right? You don't know if you're talking to somebody, if it's a real person or it's a bot, but they'll send out 25 or 50, and they're trying to make that cell, right? So there's nothing stopping us at this point from an individual creating bots on social media, fake accounts, whatnot, and talking to young children, and that's going on today. And that's how you see so many of them slip into human trafficking. Anyway, there's a whole host of things that go into the cultural war that I really believe we have to have a handle on. We have to discuss. It's a heavy, deep topic, but it's one that we have to win.
We definitely need to bring you back because you have so much. You have so much to say, and we have so many more questions to ask you.
Let's do it again. I mean, so the elections starts the second week in February. March 5th is the primary. If we win in the primary, we win because it's a heavily Republican district. I'd love to come back and kind of give you an update on where we're going.
We'd love to have you.
And so we'll put AI on the list. We'll put sex trafficking on the list. There's several other things like that we can add to the agenda. We'll talk about border security. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a full-blown impeachment that's going on with the guy that's occupying
the big guy.
1600. Anyway, when all of that said, we got to wrap this up. Suzanne, it has been an absolute pleasure. You've got my brain thinking.
Thank you.
From our conversation a few weeks ago, and then today, it's like we're not doomed.
No, but there's hope. We just need to remember there is hope. There really is hope.
There is hope. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, Ray, anything to wrap up?
No, we got to get going. Thank you, Suzanne, for coming on our show, and we'll see all of you later.
Thank you.
Suzanne Harp for Congress. Thank you, Suzanne. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. If you have suggestions for topics you would like us to discuss, or you would like to become a sponsor, reach out to us today at tabootalkwithrayansteve@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out the other amazing programs on OBBM Network on all your favorite podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Join us again for another fun and informative opinion-based episode. This is Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve.